It is Friday Night Pint, and we have got a lot to talk about. Moyes has seemingly contradicted Antonio's comments that he made on his podcast, basically about talks about him leaving the club. Moyes is saying that ain't happening. It's not true. So we're going to get right into that. We're going to be talking obviously about Areola potentially wanting to leave on loan. Is there a problem with players seemingly wanting to leave? Do we have a morale problem in the dressing room? We're going to get into all the other latest goings on. Obviously, we've lost another goalkeeper in Darren Randolph. And it's all go, mate. It's all go in this transfer window, Scott. Oh, by the way, Graham's running late.
Yeah, no, it is, mate. It's all go. There's loads of stuff spilling out and coming out of the club. People talking outside of the normal channel. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting time at the minute.
Yeah, Nicky's working nights. He's not here, and Ryan is out and about. So you're stuck with me, Scott, and allegedly Graham.
He's on his way.
Yeah, we know he's not the most technically gifted person, honestly. So we tried to wait as long as we could, but we couldn't keep you people waiting. But yeah, I mean, the transfer window is ticking along, and I'm waiting to see what else we're getting in. Moyes is saying before, because I do want to play the audio of what Moyes said about Antonio, but I'm delaying a bit for Graham. But he sort of seemingly said that he doesn't expect us to spend any more money. He's not guaranteed we won't spend any money, but he can't see us spending any more money. But he hasn't ruled out any more signings. So potentially looking at loan deals.
Well, that's the thing. He was a bit sheepish, isn't he, in a way. He sort of said, we're not looking to doing the business, but we still might do business. There's no one going out, but we don't know what's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 or 6 days. So, he's trying to cover his bases. But I'll be honest, mate. I can't see anyone going. If I'm being honest now, I think we're done. Letting players go because we're starting to look thin again.
Yeah, it is true with a lot of these injuries coming up. I mean, Zouma now is out potentially 4 weeks.
Yeah, and it just seems to be we get a player back, we get a player in, and then this happens. So you're sitting there looking at we lost Danny Ings, didn't we? To an injury.
Skamaka, now it's Zouma. That is a killer. Yeah. Because I was so excited to have Zouma back with Aguerd. We finally get to see, which I believe is our strongest centre-back partnership.
Yeah.
And he's back 1 game. And we've really got to talk about Zouma because undercover, he's very injury-prone. It don't really get mentioned. But Graham, so basically we're just talking about Zouma being injured for potentially 4 weeks. We've just had him back 1 game. It's looking like we can't rely on him to be fit.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the comments Steve Roberts is saying about Zouma. He looks like he's injured. I've said that to you a couple of times, haven't I, Scott? He looks a little bit slower lately, doesn't he? Like he's struggling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is sad. He's
almost like a milk float going through treacle, but there you go.
But his injury record's not the greatest. That is a bit of a worry, like I said, the timing of it's a big blow. We have a good win, clean sheet, all right. Granted, it's against poor Everton side, but we just like we can build with something with a Bonner and Aguerd and Zouma as a back three, and then we go and get a blow that he's injured again. And
I mean, hopefully, if they're saying 4 weeks, hopefully it's not going to be one of those that extends into 6, 7. Which has happened quite regularly with us, isn't it? It's, with Cornet, it was supposed to be a minor injury and he'd be back within a couple of weeks, and he's been out most of the season.
The thing is, Zouma's one of them players, nearly every game he goes down, and he's down for quite an extended period of time, and you're worried. In nearly every game this happens, he'll be on the floor and you're thinking, geez, he's injured. Then after a while, he gets up and plays on. And that happened in the Everton game.
Maybe that was the problem. If they're saying it was a thigh injury, maybe he should have gone off when it happened.
We desperately need a new centre back. Desperately.
Yeah.
We've let Dawson go. Obviously, Kerr performances, we're still unsure about him. But yeah, Ogbonna obviously is 34 years old. He's looked decent, to be fair to him, in the back three, but I don't know about relying on him, especially against some teams, you know.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah, we've got to get one in. We've
so
really
that would have been a strong back three of Ogbonna, Aguerd, and Zouma. That would have been. I think that would have been most people's starting three at the back.
I think that would have been everyone's starting three when you look at the centre halves that we've got. And the thing is, with Dawson going, the inconsistency in Kera's performances, Ben Johnson, the uncertainty around his future at the football club, and the poor form that he's shown. For me, a centre back in on loan is a must. Because of Bonner, he's the other side of 30 now. He's not getting any quicker. He's had his injury problems himself. Aguerd just come back and just starting to look like the player that we signed, especially after the World Cup. And we need a bit more depth.
Yeah, 100%. Eyebrows for us here says, I reckon 60,000 subs are mainly down to Graham's eyebrows. That's the secret. Yes, we're going to be talking about Rice and Arsenal story later on as well. Thanks for bringing that up, usual suspect. Almost forgot about that. I want to play a piece of audio from Moyes from his press conference. We'll get into the Antonio stuff. Matt, I did see the watch along, and I gave Damo and Jace a suitable ear bashing for their shocking performance. No score board, no timer. Unacceptable.
They're slacking, mate.
Yeah. I can't be having it. Listen, I'm going there. I'm going to be on the watch along on Monday, and I'm going to make sure things are run right. I'm going to make sure they know what they're doing this time. So for those who didn't see my video that I put out yesterday about Antonio and his podcast, basically saying that there's been talks about him leaving the club. And he's not pushing the move, but if a move happens, it happens, and things haven't been going well for him. Haven't been on form, and it'd be sad if he did leave, but he's open to it. So, but he confirmed that basically they've had talks about him going. This is what Sir David Moyes had to say.
Well, it's not the club talking about Mickey Antonio going. I think Mickey's someone who's talking about it. Unfortunately, Danny has picked up an injury which was in the first 15-20 seconds of the game, and we don't think it's that bad, but it's just enough just to make us say we're going to have to. It would be cup tied for this week anyway, so we've got a little bit of grace with that. So hopefully he's not going to miss too much. He's had an injection in his knee, and hopefully he'll get himself back ready to go quite quickly.
Does that mean you're looking for another striker?
No, not really. I think what we've said is we're probably in the main. We've spent some money on Danny, which we weren't necessarily expecting to do, but we felt as if we could do to add into what we've got. At the moment, I don't necessarily see us spending more money. But again, I don't want to say that and then you say to me, you told me something different, because this world changes very quickly.
How is the squad and what changes are you?
Right, enough of that. So he's basically said he's talking bollocks without saying he's talking bollocks. He's just basically said that's Antonio saying that. We're not saying that. We're not saying that. We're not talking about him going. Antonio is, which is he's completely contradicted what Antonio has said there, which is very interesting, very telling.
It is, mate, and that's the thing. It's like I listened to. I haven't watched all your video, but I listened to it, and I think the true thing you said is that it's a bit unusual for us players to be coming out talking about their clubs and their situations on their own podcasts. It's sort of like deflecting.
Well, normally that sort of stuff's monitored, isn't it, by the clubs?
Not
they sort of monitor the output, don't they?
No, they only monitor stuff that when people want to ask them questions. So Antonio's own stuff is his own stuff, his own opinions, his own things. It's not people asking him questions. And I think that he is just more trying to angle a move away from the club without making it look like it's him who wants to move away from the club.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's actually a good point. You know what I mean? I think that's a good point because it seems to be he realizes now Ings is in. He is probably going to end up being third choice. Like he's moved that much down the pecking order. I think that he wants to try and leave, but he doesn't want to leave on bad terms. He wants to move to Appin, so he can, be the main man again. And he doesn't want to rock the boat too much. But why would it's weird to me that Antonio would say there's been talks about him leaving if there haven't been talks about him leaving. And this isn't the first time that Moyes has contradicted something a player has said in an interview or something like this about movie or whatever. But that's the bit that gets me is that someone's lying here or someone's misspoke or something's going on. And that's the thing. I understand what you're saying, Scott, but to say that there's been talks about him leaving if they haven't, I mean, that's, I think, poor if that's true.
Yeah. But is talks of him leaving? Oh, boss, I see a newspaper report that Wolves are after me. Is it true? And David Moyes like, no, that's talk.
But that's no. He said like there's been discussions basically like, oh, if money comes in, if someone comes in for you, we'll accept a bid, or if this happens, we're going to accept a bid, or these are the situations on which we'll sell you, or I want to leave if an offer.
But that doesn't mean that a bid's come in.
Yeah, but no one said Antonio didn't say a bid's coming, neither did Moyes. Antonio said that there's been talks about him leaving. Moyes said there hasn't. As far as he's concerned, Antonio is not leaving in this window. And he hasn't had discussions about the possibility of him leaving. So they're saying two different things.
So basically, one out of the two of them's lying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or there is talks that have gone on, but they're not talks that Moyes is aware of. I.e., the talks have been between Antonio and a member of the board.
Which is mad. Which
Moyes might not have been privy to at the time.
But this is...
If it was just between Antonio and a member of the board.
To me, that's not good. That's bad. If Antonio's having these discussions and Moyes isn't privy to it, that's not a good sign, is it? That he's talking to Noble or Sullivan or whoever else about, if a bid comes in, I want to accept it, we'll sell you, this is what we're looking for. And Moyes isn't even clued in, and he's finding out about this through Antonio's podcast. That's even worse.
I mean, if that was the case, and I was Moyes, I'd be fuming that I've been left out of the loop. But I mean, it's all just speculation,
No, but this is what I'm saying.
The fact that Moyes has turned around and said, well, no, there's no... But then, maybe he's just... maybe Moyes is there has been discussion and Moyes is just being discreet about it. Because at the moment, Antonio's our only fit striker.
Look, but it's weird. I get so maybe there is, but then at the same time, if I'm Moyes, because what he's made Antonio look a bit silly there with what he said.
Yeah, exactly. But also, Dan, what we've got to think of as well is that agents could be involved here. So maybe the conversation may have been had between the agent and the board, the board, or the agent and his player. Maybe the agent's come in and said, Wolves are interested in you,
Scott,
for argument's sake.
For years, that's been going on. A lot of the times, when players say, about leaving, or it's the agent pushing the agenda, isn't it?
If you listen to
that's gone on since agents have been involved in the game.
If you listen to Antonio's podcast, which I did the West Ham section anyway, the way he was sort of saying it was that it was out of his hands, that there has been these talks, but he's not in control of his destiny. It's whatever happens. He said it about 50 times. If it happens, it happens. So it makes it seem like he hasn't been actively angling for this move. That look, I'm not in control of my destiny. I've got a year and a half left here on my contract. So as things stand, I'm at West Ham. But if something happens and they take a deal, it's a bit of a mess to me. And I can't see that there's any sort of spin on it that makes this not look bad.
No, I'm with you, mate. I think the timing of it's awful as well. You know, for him to come out and say that with a situation that, in fact, we've just lost Danny Ings with an injury. Samaka's still out injured. You know, we don't really think we're back, and Antonio is our only first choice striker. And the fact that probably the game against Everton has been the best game he's played for a while.
That was, and you noticed he was better when he was out wide. He looked like his old self when he was out on the wing, wasn't he?
Well, he was sort of
Like
drifting out there,
Antonio
wasn't he?
old.
Yeah.
I mean, like for the second goal, you know, that was the old Antonio, wasn't it? Bullied the defender.
Yeah, it was quality.
You know, driving into the box.
Yeah, no, he was. He had a great game, and like I said, you know, in my video, I wouldn't want to see him go, you know, really, unless we're definitely going to get a replacement in. And it looks like Moffey is definitely not happening. He has no interest in coming to England, so that's off the card. So I think I don't know. It's all the signs seem like it's pointing to him leaving, but if we can't get a replacement in, there's no way.
Yeah.
If we was to sell him without getting a replacement in, we might as well just, you know.
It would be madness, mate. Absolute madness. And there'd be uproar if we did that.
But before we go to the comments, right, because I've been seeing on social media, it's been very split on people's perspective on Antonio. If, you know, some paint him up to be the bad guy here with his comments, you know, he's being disrespectful to the club, trying to move. He's, you know, it don't help that his performances hasn't been great, and he's only banged in a couple goals in the league all season. But a lot of people are sort of making him out to be the bad guy, like he's lost his dedication, he just wants to move on, and he's undermining us a bit. Whereas some are saying, well, what he said isn't so bad. Where do you stand on it? Either one of you.
Go on, Greg, go first.
What Antonio coming out and saying about the move?
Yeah. I mean, do you think he's the bad guy, or do you think it's fair enough what he said?
No, but I mean, you know, like I said, he hasn't said he wants to move. He just said there has been talk of him being sold. He hasn't come out and said he wants to be like leave the club or anything like that. So, I mean, there's been a breakdown in communication somewhere between the manager and the player, because Moyes is contradicting what Antonio's saying. But I don't think he's the bad guy. No, he hasn't you know, come out and stated that he wants to leave the club. So I don't think he's just expressing that there'd been a chat where it was sort of if a bid come in, like the right bid, they'd sell him. So, but he himself hasn't said that he wants to leave. So,
Yeah, no, I agree. I just like Scott said earlier, don't think players should be doing podcasts at all while they're playing.
I don't not while they're playing. I mean, obviously when
No.
you know, when they're retired, they can do what they want. But
Yeah.
I think maybe, I mean, you don't want to restrict players, or not just players in life in general. You don't want to restrict anyone's freedom of speech, but
Well, you say that, but
knowing our clubs are usually, when it comes to sort of media stuff and how they go over everything with fine tooth comb, and players can say this but they can't say that. You know, I'm surprised that the club have let him sort of allowed him to do a podcast while he's still a player.
they wouldn't let us interview Antonio if we asked. You know, they'd veto that in a second.
That's what I'm saying. They
But
normally vet anything
Yeah.
to do with the media side of things. Is normally vetted to the nth
How
degree.
can
innit?
you
So,
how can you have a podcast where your striker, your number 9, can talk about his transfer situation that's ongoing right now during the transfer window?
Yeah.
Like,
And
it's
that's it.
mad.
As you said, like listening to the video you done, that he never said he wanted to go. He did say that if it happens, it happens. If it don't happen, it don't happen. But the time and the end comments is the wrong. So, do I think he's a villain in saying it? Yes, because of the timing. You know, if we were towards the end of the season and he come out with that, and we were in a good position, and he wasn't playing. Samaka and Ings were in front of him in the lineup, and he was now the third choice striker. I could get that, but at the moment when he knows these injuries have happened, he's the only striker we've got at the club. I just feel the timing's very bad on his part.
Yeah, I mean, but he hasn't actually said that he wants to leave. So in that sense, I don't think he's. It's not like when we've had players in the past like Payet and Outwich like saying they want to leave or angling for a move away. He hasn't said that.
No,
he hasn't come out and said that he wants to leave.
I don't think he's been completely vilified. Yeah, it's not that bad, but just I'll get some comments now. But yeah, I just think as Ronan Keaton said, you say it best when you say nothing at all. Yeah,
exactly, mate. Exactly.
That's it. Let's see what some of the chat have to think about Antonio. I always have to filter because I love it that like everyone in the chat talks to each other and as a chat and there's a community in there. Sometimes I just got to look around and say, see what's going on there. Right, swap Antonio and Bowen around, says John Grant. You know what? I see someone who I chat to quite a bit, this account, West Ham Online, and he was very vociferous in his opinion that people that say put Antonio on the wing don't understand football because what Antonio does by drifting out wide is create space for Bowen. So therefore he's effective in that role. But the problem is with that, and that's all fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, our number 9, our striker, his main job should be scoring goals. Not moving around to try and have his wingers score goals and drag defenders. Yeah, you want a player that can drag defenders in the other moments. But if he's not doing his primary job of putting it in the back of the net, then maybe put him out on the wing, but give him the license to move and come in, and then have someone like a Bowen, if we ain't got anyone else, up front to focus on sticking it in the back of the net.
Yeah, I think what the thing is, what they're saying is correct, right? You do want your winger moving, making runs wide to drag defenders out to open up space for a winger to cut in, right? That's perfect. Yeah. When the ball's in the middle of the pitch, middle of the park, yeah, and we're coming forward with a ball, you don't want your centre forward running in straight lines. Yeah, you want him mixing it up a bit and allowing the space to happen. As we saw, I'm trying to think of a goal. There was a goal this season where the forward made a run and the defender followed him, and it opened up so much space for the winger to come in. It might have been one of Bowen's, I can't remember fully. The problem with Antonio is he's going out wide to cross the ball in, not making a run to drag a defender out to make that space for the winger to cut into the space that's been created. He's playing out wide, and that's the difference. And that's what I don't know who you said that to you. That's what he's not getting with what you're saying.
Yeah, West Ham Online. Yeah,
West Ham. You know what I mean? I look. You look at strikers like Giroud. The movement that Giroud had when he was at Arsenal, when he was at Chelsea. Yeah, it opened up space for other players. He moved out of pockets of space so that other wingers, the other forwards or wingers could move into that space. Antonio ain't that type of forward.
Yeah, but do you know any club or any team that would keep a striker up front in the starting 11, not scoring any goals, but just moving defenders around here and there and opening up space, never scoring?
The trouble is with Antonio, like I say, we saw more like the old him on Saturday when he was drifting out wide. So on the wing, head down, running at defenders, hustle and bustle. Playing the lone striker role, you need someone who's going to have a good touch, hold the ball up, can bring other people into play. That's not Antonio at the moment. Sometimes his touch, like he hasn't got the touch to play a lone striker role. I don't think. Yeah. I think he's either better on the wing or up top with somebody.
Yeah,
is the problem because you've seen, like we've all seen it. Sometimes his touch goes everywhere. He's like one chop used to be. He didn't even know what he was going to do half the time.
Yeah,
let alone the defenders.
Yeah, he's unpredictable to them and himself. Yeah. But we've got Red 5 here. Shout out Red 5. Great meeting you after the Everton game, mate. Bowen as a striker for me looked dangerous as he offers pace in behind. We so desperately need. We just don't have the options on the right wing. Like that's
Yeah.
what we desperately need. We got to get some options in there. This is an interesting one from Gary Page about he's lost the dressing room. They don't care. Why do you think Noble has had enough? Obviously, Gary's talking about the rumours that Noble had a meeting with the board about potentially wanting to resign, but they talked him down. I mean, look, we'll get into the morale in the dressing room and all of that stuff because, it seems like everything's going a bit mad. And Black Country Amory says Antonio had enough with the circus that's going on, and Sullivan doesn't make things better. It is looking a bit like a circus. Good old Mr. C says you don't go above your manager unless it's about your manager. Yeah, very true. Anything like sure, that is the if you want to move, right? Any move that's going, you go in, knock on the manager's door, and say, "Listen, I know I'm third choice now. What are the chances we can get a move?" You don't go to Sullivan. You don't go to Noble. You go to the manager. So if there's a breakdown in communication with Moyes and Antonio, that's a worry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, that's it. Because you look at the rumours about Areola wanting to go out on loan. That's a conversation that you go to the gaffer and it's like, gaffer, what are my chances of getting game time? We've just seen Conor Coventry go out on loan because he's not getting any game time. It's a conversation you have between you and the manager and nobody else, and that is how a football club should work. If things are going on behind the manager's back about them conversations, then that's not a good thing. And that will affect morale because then you're undermining the manager. You're undermining his position and his authority over the side by going behind his back and discussing things.
Yeah, exactly. Matt Powell says, "Hey Dad, good video of behind the scenes of the West Ham Fan TV after the Everton match. That was on our Patreon. If you're not on the old Patreon, you can get on that West Ham Fan TV Patreon, stick that in the Google machine. I put an after behind the scenes of the fan camps, and Graham and Scott were in it. They were at a start.
Made a brief appearance.
Yeah, that's it. They're joining in, digging me out for my beard, which I trimmed.
You did as soon as you got home. You trimmed that up.
I did.
Sorry, Dan, but when I grew mine, I got dug out, so I was just passing it on. You know what I mean? If I had to go through it, you're going through it and all.
I did. I've got in right, and I shaved it, and I put a picture in the group chat. I was like, "Happy now? You happy?" Yeah, honestly, Nick Tucker was calling me a hobo.
You look like Uncle Albert.
Oh yeah, Uncle Albert. During the war. Good old Eltel 1010 says Antonio don't like that he is not first choice anymore. He don't take into account that he has been shite for a year and thrown his dollies out of the pram. This is what I don't get because Antonio came out last season and said, "I want competition. Mm-hmm. I need competition." And now we've had competition. It's like he's gone into his shell a bit now, and he's got frustrated. This is what you asked for. This should be pushing you on and driving you, and
as you said, competition either makes a player stronger or he just looks for excuses not to up his game. And
the thing is, I believe if you've got the competition, it raises everybody's game. It should do, in my opinion.
Yeah. We got a question for you, Graham, from Matt Rainey, 449 Super Chat. Thank you very much, Matt. Gray, what do you think about our next 3 games? Good to have you back, Mush. Newcastle away, Chelsea at home, Spurs away.
But Newcastle away be a tough one. But having said that, they don't concede many, but they don't score many either. So if we can keep it tight up there, I think we could nick a point or a win up there. Chelsea at the moment, I think are there for the taking. So watch us get rolled over quite easily because that is the West Ham way. But yeah, Spurs away will be I think that'll be a tricky one. I think the Spurs one. That's the one I'd really hate to lose. Is the Spurs game. But I'd say if we come away with those 3 games with 4 points, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But I'd say the Chelsea game's definitely very winnable.
Yes.
The way they are at the minute, because they're in a sort of transitional period, got a lot of injuries and that sort of thing. So they're there for the taking, in my opinion. I mean, Chelsea fans would probably disagree with me, but I think the Newcastle one, I think we can keep it tight up there. I think we could nick something up there because they don't score too many. Like they did, I say they're very good defensively, but they do seem to squander a lot of chances. So.
Miss Samaretti says, not his natural position, no, Dan, never was. The aspects of him saying no to that position. Yeah, it's weird because he is obviously naturally a right winger who was tried to be converted to a right back, who was then converted to a striker. But some people are adamant, and they'll compare. I've seen these comparisons of going, well, Rice used to be a centre back and now he's a midfielder. No one says Rice ain't a midfielder. But Rice was converted at a young age into a midfielder. Antonio spent majority of his career on the wing.
Listen, right, there's different levels of class. That's all I'm going to say. There's a different level. So yeah, you can't don't even put that should not be put in the conversation about Antonio. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I say I've just seen Geordie too. I didn't realise Newcastle scored that many. To be honest, I didn't. I know, like the last few games, they've not been scoring as freely as they were earlier in the season.
Listen, Geordie Toon for life. Yeah, he's piping up. He's getting happy. You've just been taken to the cleaners, mate, over a bang average player. What was it, 40 million for bloody Anthony Gordon? Bloody hell, daylight robbery. That Jesus, 40 million. I mean, there's a player, we were talking about Antonio, there's a player who's actively not turned up to training for 3 days, threw his toys out the pram. This is his boy at the club. And then Newcastle went and spent 40 million on him.
I know, mate, it's crazy.
And people try and say that Rice, we can't get 100 million for Rice. Madness.
They're saying that we haven't got a bad record up at St James's the last few years, have we? I think we've done...
It's been a mixture, yeah. We've been all right.
Yeah, I know we went years, we had a very poor record up there, but the last few years we've been doing all right up there.
I think with the Antonio conversation, I'll end on this one. It's a good one. Antonio has been a good servant, played lots of positions, can't question his effort, technically not the best. Let's move on and get some new talent in. He is caught in a move, only a few goals this season. Yeah, I think that's the best way to sum it up, Jamie, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I also talked yesterday. Let's talk about what is going on with these players wanting to leave, because Antonio seems to want to leave. We've got Areola, apparently he's trying to get a loan move to Lorient so he can get in the France team. There seems to be, obviously, Ashby is not signing a new deal. He wants to leave. Johnson's not signing a new deal. Rice, we know, is eyeing a move, and we'll talk about the latest twist and the turn of the Rice Arsenal story later. Not a lot of players seem to want to be here at the moment. There's also talks about Scamacca earlier on in January. I mean, these are just rumours. Potentially wanting to go back to Italy because of the way it's worked. I mean, it doesn't sound good at all.
I think it's the position that we're in. I think these rumours and these things circulate. Look, Areola, I understand he wants to go. He wants to play football. I don't get when we signed him at the start of the season. There must have been a conversation where he knew what the situation was, whether he was just going to be the cup keeper or whether he was actually going to be starting in the league. The fact for me that he doesn't start in the league, I think, is madness. Because no disrespect, Fabianski, who's been a good servant and a great goalkeeper. Areola's the future, and Areola's the one we want to see. And for me, he should be starting.
He's certainly good enough to be the number one, I think.
Yeah, he had his he picked up the injury before the FA Cup game, which he probably would have started in. But I can see that. I can see him getting a bit disappointed in the lack of first team action. Ashby, look, we know Ashby's been wanting out since the start of the season, so that's nothing new there. We've already discussed the Antonio stuff. Declan Rice, every transfer window, he's linked with a move away from the football club. So that's for a player of his quality, that is always going to happen. The longer he stays with the club, the better it is for us. But it will be just every time. Oh, Rice is going here, Rice is going there. You know, we had the same situation in the summer with the Chelseas and all that, and I'm sure he was going to Chelsea in the January transfer window last season. These were all the stories coming out. So you're going to get that around quality, but I think it's more to the fact the position that we're in at the moment is causing all this unrest around the football club.
It's to me, it's a weird one because even last season, right, there were certain players, like Ashby. We had a few other young players. Sonny Perkins left, didn't he? I think Elise. I think we let him go, but we had Sonny Perkins go, and we had another young player go, who chose to leave. So we've had a couple of players chose to leave. Ashby's trying to leave. We've let another player go, sold another player, Sunderland. I don't know. There's a little bit of a bad vibe coming out at the moment, and it started from last season, and I don't know whether it's obviously how well we're doing on the pitch, or if it's the way that we're playing, or there's some sort of bad culture that's sort of crept into the club, or the manager, people don't like playing, want to play under the manager, or falling out with there's something. And like people said, and like X said in his thing about the Noble thing, and the fact that Noble is having issues in his job role, like X said, there's no smoke without fire. And there's a lot of smoke right now.
Yeah, of course. Look, the youngsters leaving, you can't really blame them. Youngsters want to play. They want to play. The problem is they've all got agents. Sonny Perkins, his head was turned by his agent. He's gone to Leeds. Right, he come on in the cup and scored a goal, but he's not really seen a lot of first team action. You can't blame a young player wanting to leave a club to play. Do you know what I mean? With Elise, he's left. He's playing for Sunderland. I think he's doing really well at Sunderland. Ashby had his head turned. With the rumours that Newcastle were interested in him, and as we discussed before about Ashby, from what the understanding we're picking up, he's not well liked around the football club. That's why we're not seeing him involved so much and bits and pieces. But it's hard for a youngster to push through into a Premier League side there, unless you are a special talent. And when the chips are down, everyone, all of us, say, "Oh, play the youngsters." But managers are under so much pressure they can't afford to do that.
But the thing is,
you certainly can't do it while you're in a relegation battle. It's just too high risk. I mean,
yeah, but as Nicky said on the other day,
Tompkins. Look at Tompkins when he broke into the first team. He was sort of thrown in at the deep end, and the first few games he didn't do particularly great, but it was sink or swim, and he swam. But that's a gamble. Like when you're down the wrong end of the table, it's not really a gamble that managers can afford to take.
I think Nicky said it very well the other day, right, when we was talking. He said, look, we were hearing that we couldn't do it last season because we was in the race for Europe and we didn't want to do that. Now we can't do it this season because we're in a relegation battle. So if we can't do it when we're doing well and we can't do it when we're doing poorly, when can we do it? And no one's saying take Ashby and start him week in, week out, make him our first choice guaranteed. But surely there are games where you go, right, you know what I mean? We're 2-0 up. Let's bring on Ashby at right back. 10 minutes to go. Oh, we've got a cup game against Derby this week. Ashby, you're starting with loads of experience around you. Oh, we got a game, against Bournemouth, who are bottom of the table. Right, we're going to have a really strong squad. Ashby, we're going to give you a go. You just, over time, and you give them that first team experience.
Just one or two at a time. Don't put them all in wholesale.
Yeah,
like Allardyce did that time, but I think Allardyce threw them under the bus at that time. To
make a point. Yeah.
If you have one or two in, have them training with the first team a couple of days in the week. Get the experience of being around the first team players, and then they've got something to aim for and something to aspire to.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, it's what we did with what we did in the last the Europa League game, weren't it? Conference game, sorry.
Yeah.
Where we played the young striker and the young winger together with a team full of experience. You have got to blood these youngsters. Ashby for me was one that when he played that game against Spurs, he should have gone on to play more games, in my opinion. You know, because he didn't look out of place, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
You know,
This is the thing. This is, what I said on the Patreon podcast the other day. So I'll give everyone, what I said. It's basically that the problem is this season is usually, you either have, we're doing really, we're doing really well up the table. We're pushing up the table. So that gives us something to be excited about. We're chasing Europe, or we're playing really attacking, entertaining football, and that gives us something to be excited about. Or we're seeing a really talented youngster being brought through and given an opportunity, and that gives us something to be excited about. We haven't got anything. We've got crap football. We're in a relegation battle, and no youngsters are being given a chance in the first team. There is nothing this season for us to cheer about, to be excited about, or anything. And we've always been a club that loves to see young talent be given a chance to come through, even if they don't go on to do anything. Freddie Sears, when he come through, people were buzzing over Freddie Sears, and just, of course, it didn't work out, but just to see him in the team in those games and take opportunities was exciting. Now we're seeing Josh Cullen. Vincent Kompany has called him like the ultimate player. He was let go, and saying how great he's the best player in the championship.
I mean, the trouble is, Dan, we had that crop come through. We had like Joe Cole, we had Ferdinand, Frank Lampard, Michael Carrick, and we had a big sort of influx of youth players coming through, and we've never got near matching that. And it's the thing that frustrates me is when, because especially the youngsters are doing really well at the minute, as well, aren't they?
Yeah,
So
the
you
under
like
18s are. Yeah, the under 18s.
Yeah, but just give them, mate, have them. Like I said,
This is the
if
problem.
you're struggling for injuries, have one of them on the bench. Be with the first team squad on a match day, But
This
the
is
thing that
what-
frustrates me is when you have players and you send them out on loan. Because if you're going to send them out on loan, then you've got to. They must be thinking, well, I must be in the plans in the future.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd sell me. So they go out on loan and they come back. Then they go out on loan again the next season. It's frustrating. As Scott said, it's frustrating for young players.
Yeah.
And this is why you see League One, League Two is actually it's a decent level now, because a lot of the players down there are from sort of Premier League. They've sort of been sold from Premier League team academies and all that. So the lower league teams are benefiting.
Yeah.
But it's just frustrating when you don't see anyone break. Like when you've seen them and that like Ashby, he's done well and stuff. It's frustrating when you see players and they're good enough.
So I'm laughing
Yeah,
because
give him a
Graham
chance.
takes a pause, so you think he's finished, and then as soon as you go to fill in the gap, he's just.
No, because if I talk too quickly, I trip over my words. So I have to breathe.
don't pause for too long, mate. Too long a breath you're taking, because we don't know when we can talk without interrupting you.
And it's
Talk over me then.
no,
Talk
but
over
it's but we do. But you just barrel through. But no, it's just because it's an awkward silence, so I don't know. Like, okay, is he finished? Should I jump in here? But no, you make a good point, and I just think the thing is, what
It's
Moyes
when you
does.
see players constantly going out on loan and then we end up selling them, you're like, well, what's the point in keeping them around and send them out on loan and calling them back if you're not going to give them an opportunity? And that's why a lot of youngsters want to leave. They're frustrated.
He either he'll either do that, or you'll see him play a game in like the Europa Conference League or something, or Europa League group stage, and they'll have a really good game. We'll all be excited about him, and then we never see him again. You know what I mean? It's
That's the annoying thing, Dan. We've seen it in the past. Players step in, players have a decent game, and you think, again, using Ashby as an example in the Spurs game. Had a really good performance. Thrown in at the deep end like Ben Johnson was when he made his debut, I think, against City, and come out of it with his head held high and never really got a look in again. Was that due to his attitude, or was that just the fact that Moyes didn't fancy him? We don't know, and it's so frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, and absolutely.
The thing is, it's got to be like when you're signed by these clubs. They must. History's proved that the chances of them making it into the first team, not becoming a Declan Rice, you know, and going on to be the team captain like a Noble and all that. Very slim.
We don't even need a Declan Rice now. You need someone who's, just say a Flynn Downs could have been a young player. It could have been a youth player or one of the centre backs. We've got all these centre back issues, and Moyes came out and he's really made himself look foolish with these comments at the start when he said, "I want the Red Bull model. I want to do a Red Bull model and bring youngsters through." And since then, he hasn't brought a single youngster through to play consistently in the first team. Not one since making those comments.
I'm sure that young lad we've just sold to Sunderland was a player we brought in to sort of try and do that with.
We got him from Chelsea.
Yeah, we got him from Chelsea, and now we've just sold him off to Sunderland. We've just signed that. We signed that young centre half from South America as well. Made his first full appearance the other night, I think, as well.
It's frustrating. But I'll get this super chat from Red 5, and this will lead us into a bit of the next topic. Thank you very much, mate. In a way, I'm pleased that these players want to leave now, know their true character. Now Rice has had his head turned. I want to see Downs more. And let's get into a bit of the... And look, we've been talking about this Rice leaving thing for years, and I cannot wait till I don't have to speak about it again. But it's starting... Things are starting to happening now. Rice has been linked with a move to Arsenal recently. They're desperately trying to get in. They were talking about him going this window, which is never going to happen. But there was this story that was going around, and I think this was started by Arsenal fans or these Arsenal accounts saying that Rice has turned down a move to Real Madrid because he's given Arteta his word that he'll go to Arsenal in the summer because he wants to play under Arteta, which I think is a load of bollocks. But the twist in the tale of Rice to Arsenal is they've just bid £60 million for the Brighton player. I forget his name, young 21-year-old. Chelsea are in for him as well. But they've had a £60 million bid rejected for him. It's said that Brighton wants 75 mil. So if they get him in, that could spell the end of their interest in Declan Rice, who apparently has had a verbal promise to go there. Which means that, it's one less club that will be going in for him. And the club that's it. Casiedo. That's it. Cheers, Chico. Casiedo. That was the one.
Yeah. I really think that Rice has definitely given his verbal agreement to go for Arteta. Yeah, 100%. Look, I'm sure last January he gave a verbal agreement to go to Chelsea. So look, if Rice goes to Arsenal, look, the kid's beyond that level. Real Madrid, Manchester City's, Chelsea because it's his boyhood club and his mates playing there. I sort of get it. Going to Arsenal, I don't get. Man United are a more attractive thing, in my opinion, than going to Arsenal. And Arsenal are top of the league, but he ain't going to Arsenal.
Do you know the funny thing about these Arsenal accounts, right? I'll just say this. This is my problem I have with Arsenal fans, is they put out shit like this. Like, Rice is coming to us because he gave Arteta his word. Well, guess what? Rice, isn't the one accepting the bids. Yeah? West Ham United Football Club is accepting the bids. Yeah. And if Arsenal give us a £60 million bid and Chelsea give us 100, guess where he's not going? Arsenal Football Club. Word or no word. So if you believe that, mate, I've got some magic beans to sell you. Honestly.
That's the thing, Dan. Like I said, it's because Arsenal are doing well at the minute. You go back to last season, Arsenal wouldn't have been in the conversation for Declan Rice. It's just because Chelsea's having such a poor season that now, and Arsenal are having a good season, why they're in the conversation. But said you're being touted to go to Real Madrid, or Real Madrid are interested in you. You look at clubs and you say about clubs with their history and things like that. Let's be honest. Rice wants to win trophies. Rice wants to win the Champions League. Where you got more chance of winning that? Real Madrid or Arsenal?
I know where I'd be going.
Yeah. Real Madrid, is that great? Just confirm that.
I do. I like a cheeky pint of Madry, so I'll be
And
going.
look, to play that, you think that Rice would, and I see someone said like, oh, but he wants to stay in London. The opportunity comes up to play for a historic, legendary club like Real Madrid, and you go, no, I prefer it in London. You take that. You take that. You can't turn down a club like Real Madrid just because you want to. You get homesick. That's mad. That'd be an amazing opportunity for him. Like you said, competing for the Champions League, winning league titles. Ah, that'd be massive for him. You know, yeah,
And,
exactly. Hammer time.
and to be honest,
Yeah.
mate, I see eyebrows Russell there has just said, you know, he won't get ahead of Partey and Xhaka. I remember a lot of Arsenal fans sitting there saying that he won't get ahead of Partey. You know, so look, we'll see. It's just, as I said, it's another club
It's-
doing the rounds.
At the moment, it's probably just media talk, and until something concrete comes in, then
Ah,
I
do you
won't.
know
I
what?
won't.
I want to keep him, but I'll be so glad when he's gone, just so we don't have to have all the speculation over it. It's so exhausting. And the question all the time: how much is Rice worth? How much is Rice worth? How much is Rice worth? Constantly, it's exhausting. So yeah, I won't miss any of that, to be honest. So yeah, it's we'll see where he goes, but I think he probably will go this summer. It's looking very likely. And the problem is, and this was another thing I was thinking about, right? And with Rice going in the summer. Now we've had this season as a big excuse for why I've been shit is it's a transitional season. It's a transitional season because we're trying to change how we play. We've signed a lot of players. Next season, we're going to be selling Declan Rice and having to replace an important player like that. Are we going to hear it's a transitional season because we have to replace Declan Rice? Are we going to be in the same bollocks next season and not kicking on and improving because we've lost an influential player?
No, because we've already replaced Declan Rice. That's why they bought Flynn Downs. I keep saying this.
Do you really think that Flynn Downs
Flynn Downs
is going to be...
Flynn Downs has been brought to this football club to play the holding role.
Okay, we know what he's been brought to, but
Yeah.
will he be able to do it anywhere near to the level of Rice? Anywhere
No, but-
near to the level?
Rice has different levels of player.
No, I mean anywhere near. Not necessarily the same, but enough that it's not going to be... We're not going to be in a massive...
This is no disrespect to Flynn Downs at all, right? But to replace Declan Rice, you need two midfielders playing in the midfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the amount of work that he does. Downs is a good player, a very, very good player, and I want to see more of him. You know, because he will be a great player for us eventually. But if Rice goes in the summer, you need two midfielders to replace Declan Rice because Declan Rice is that key and that important to our midfield.
Yeah. You know what? Before I want to end on this interesting one, right? I saw the news that it looks like Everton are getting Sean Dyche. It looks like he's agreeing to become the Everton manager. Now, as I don't know. Every time I tweet, it causes controversy. I don't know why. I'm this really divisive person. But so I just said it's basically bad news for West Ham. That's what Everton almost guaranteed to stay up. We need to get our shit together urgently, or we're going down. Now, some people took this as I'm saying we should have got Dyche, which I'm not. But this is the way I look at it. And there was a lot of sort of conversation on Dyche when he got Burnley relegated, but don't forget he done really well with Burnley. I look at it like this: he is an upgrade on Frank Lampard. He's a definite upgrade, and they're 2 points off the relegation zone. And when you look at it, he's coming in. Moyes has created the mess we're in. Dyche is going to fix someone else's mess. It's easier to clean up someone else's mess than to fix your own when you get into it. That's why so many new managers, that's why we have a new manager bounce. You see it because they go in and they look at, okay, what are the easier fixes that I can do? And they can get a bit of momentum. He is going to make that team harder to beat. and he will improve them enough. And that's another team we've got to worry about now in the relegation battle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I got what you meant by that. You know, when I first read it, I was sitting there thinking, right, and then it clicked, and I got what you mean. You know, I got what you mean that now in the position that we're in, and you're looking at teams that are worse off than we are. Everton are one of those teams. Now with a manager like Dyche coming in, who is going to get them to work harder, to run more, and as we saw when Moyes comes in, just getting players to put more effort and run more seems to get you a few results here and there. You know, you pick up points that you weren't getting because you weren't putting them effort levels in. So that you'll get a big bounce from Everton with Dyche. You know, Dyche is that type of manager. He's a nitty-gritty manager. He's going to get the team working the way he wants to do. So I completely get what you were trying to say in it, you know. But I do get how some people have took it the wrong way.
Yeah, but and don't forget, they've sold Anthony Gordon to these gullible Geordies, right, up the motorway. They've got £40 million to spend to give to Sean Dyche. So their squad is a bit of a shambles. People said, you know, that team is a mess, and you know it's going to be tough.
He's only going to have like 3 days to spend it, so it's going to be difficult to get someone in that short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, but it will likely get if he gets a couple of players. Look, he's worked with Dwight McNeil. He's managed Dwight McNeil. He's managed Tarkowski, and he's managed Michael Keane, who, thank God, that's ruled him out coming to this club, because there was talks of that, and Dyche taking over, he'll want to keep him. So there's 3 players there he's managed before. If he gets in the centre forward, and you know maybe one other player, then I'm not saying they're going to be this top amazing team, but that could be enough to keep them up. And like Graham said, there's not now a clear definitive 3 worst teams, because Southampton got their new manager. They beat Man City in the Cup. They're not great, but there's enough there where I can see that I can't say they're gone, they're down. Wolves, I think, are going to keep climbing the table. Leicester, I think, could get dragged into it. Leeds have just strengthened. We'll see how they do. We're in trouble unless we strengthen in the window and Moyes gets his shit together, or we get him out. That's it. We need to see improvement quick. There's no more waiting. There's no more, oh, it's Newcastle, we don't expect to beat them. Oh, it's Chelsea, we don't expect to beat them. It's Tottenham, we don't expect to beat them away. No, we have to get results, and we have to start getting them now, because we're in massive danger, mate.
We are, mate. We are. We're in danger, but just because the way we're performing at the minute. You know, at the end of the day, you could sit here and say there's 3 worse teams than us at the moment, but that's not necessarily to say by the end of the season there's going to be 3 worse teams than us. We've got to stop worrying about the teams around us and just do the job that we can do. Like you said, we have got to get our shit together. Moyes isn't going anywhere. Moyes will be here at the end of the season unless we are relegated with 5 games left to go.
I always say, like, if you're relying on other teams to do you a favour at points during the season, you haven't done enough yourself to stay up. If you're relying on other teams to help you out, then you haven't done enough.
But that's the thing, and we're in a situation now where results-wise, we are having to rely on other teams at the moment, unless we can start getting results against the teams above us. Right, it's all well and good being these flat track bullies who, you know, turn up, and we play these teams that are doing worse than us, and we get results over them. We have to start beating quality teams. We can't look at Newcastle as a free hit and Spurs as a free hit, and that's like, I've seen it so many times. You know, the Arsenal game. Oh, you know, first game back. Oh, well, it's Arsenal and this team. Well, if we'd gotten the points against the teams like Nottingham Forest when we could have, we wouldn't have to worry about. We could then say, "Oh, it's Arsenal," but we haven't done enough against the teams around us.
And that's the problem, Dan. That's the problem with this season, is that, you know, we've barely beaten anybody. You know, I think this is the first we haven't beaten anyone inside the top 6.
No.
You know, or who's been in the top 6 when we've played.
Fulham's been the best team that we've beat this season, and that was under very dubious circumstances with VAR.
And that's the thing. Like you said, you could afford to lose to your Arsenals, your Cities, your Liverpools, your Chelseas, them type of sides, and the ones that you class as a free hit, if you're beating your Bournemouths, your Evertons, your Wolves, your Leeds, the teams that are down there, like you said, we're not doing that. Right? Yeah, we've beaten Bournemouth, we've beaten it, but the other teams we didn't beat Wolves, who were in a right 2-8.
We lost to Everton away badly.
And
We lost
that's
to
the
Nottingham
thing.
Forest.
You are right in the sense of we've got to look at Newcastle. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a hard game to get anything, but we need to get a point. Do you know what I mean? We need to get something out of it. Same as Chelsea. You've got to be looking at Chelsea. They're not in great form. Got to get something out of it. And Spurs, you never know with Spurs. Never know.
Yeah, no, you do never know. And that's it. But I just think we can't come out of these games making excuses and saying, oh, well, it's Newcastle, it's Chelsea, it's Spurs. Like, if we're not getting anything from these games, how can we justify? Like, if we're waiting 5 games to go to see if we got the drop and then go, oh, we're relegated, so we'll sack him. That's mad. We cannot get relegated.
No,
We've spent £170 million. Like, honestly, well, that's going to really stress, especially at the end, with a potential sale on the horizon as well. It's, I'm worried. I don't know about you guys, but this is the thing. The Everton's, this on the positive, look, I saw a lot of promise on the Everton game, even though and you have to take the caveat that it is Everton, worst team in the league at the time, but I saw a lot of good individual performances, and if we can just get good team performances out of that, we'll be fine. We have the quality. We should be nowhere near this relegation battle. And if we can just get a second half push, get maybe 1 or 2 players in that can give us some momentum, like Lingard did, towards the end of the season, we'll be fine. But I look at that Conference League now, and we just have to win that. We have to win that because that is our last shot at Europe. Last shot. We have to win. And to me, if Moyes is going to stay at the end of the season, till the end of the season, his job has to be on winning that Conference League. If we finish 15th and don't win and we get knocked out of the Conference League, he's got to go. Simple. If he wins the Conference League and we're 15th in that, then I go, do you know what? It was a shit season, but we won a trophy. Let's build on that. And we're in Europa League. Moyes, you go again. That's it for me. That's what he's got to do. It may be harsh to it, but we spent a lot of money and we've had a torrid time and played turgid football. Give us something at the end of the season now. This is a competition that we can win. We're one of the favourites. This ain't like we're asking to win the FA Cup and saying if he don't win the FA Cup, he should be sacked. This is the Conference League. One of the favourites. Last chance to get back into Europe. Because I think if we don't finish in Europe this season, it could be a very long time before we get it again.
100%. 100%.
So,
like
Need to keep
Graham
the
said,
momentum going. Need to keep
That's
the
it.
momentum going.
that's it. And like you've said many a time, Gray, you can't put where you finish in the league in a trophy cabinet.
No, because the thing is, if we win the Conference League, no one's going to remember that we finished 15th or 16th. We won our first trophy for 43 years,
And that's it. And that's where I think a lot of, this, I think we all agree we need to be in the Premier League. But as a lot of times, winning a trophy is what you remember. None of us, Graham, you were alive 1980, but you was only 2.
No, I was nearly 4. You cheated.
Nearly 4. So you don't really remember it, right? But apart from the Intertoto Cup and a couple of playoff wins, we've never seen the club.
2006. Well, we were this close to winning it in.
That's what I'm saying. We've never seen.
2006.
We've never seen that. We've never seen the club lift the trophy.
No.
So I want to see it. Graham wants to see it. Dan, you want to see it. Ryan, I want to see it. Nicky, I want to see it. And if we win a trophy, we'll all remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. We've got to be honestly. It's huge, and if we win that, everything that's happening this season, forgiven, right?
Yeah.
But that's a big if. But I say this right, Will. I said I'm on fire. I'm fired up tonight because the thing is, it's so hard to make these nuanced points and really get your point across on Twitter, right? So I just people think, oh, I'm trying to be controversial. I just say how I'm feeling at the time, and then loads of people jump on it, and then I'm going back and forth for ages. I'm thinking, why am I doing this? But on this platform, I can fully explain what I mean. So, yeah, but it's yeah, it's one of
You
those
said
things.
that eyebrows are us.
What's he say?
Then the eyebrows are us.
I can't see it. What's he say?
He said, if we win the Conference League, I'm going to get Graham's eyebrows tattooed on my arse, one brow on each cheek.
Oi, that's a shout. That's a shout. Listen,
Oh.
I don't care what none of these other teams can belittle that Conference League to me if we win it. No one can. And
Look, the Roma players didn't look disappointed when they won it last year.
No, they didn't. They was buzzing.
No.
And I've said that. I've said this.
As a football player, you want to win a trophy. It's like Brian Clough. He said he won the. I think before he won like the Zenith Data. He said it's a trophy. It's a game at Wembley, and it's a trophy at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
as a footballer, you want to win trophies.
Yep.
So,
Listen,
like winners' medals at the end of your career.
I said this to my Spurs mate, Tobes, right? I said, look, if you finish 5th, 4th, whatever, and we win the Conference League, we've had a better season than you. You can't talk to us. I don't care what you say. You were in that Conference League, and you bottled it. You couldn't get out the group stages.
Mm-hmm.
If we win that, we've had a better season than most teams, in this league, regardless. I don't care. Trophies are what it's all about. Yeah. Just want to quickly on this one, actually, because I wanted to point out about this, actually. Quickly, So Fred says, what the F has happened with Cornet? He's been out almost as long as Aguerd. Apparently, Cornet could be back sooner rather than later. And Scamacca as well. A lot of the players are getting these injections. Plasma... Palette, I said it on my show on the show the other day. Palette plasma injections or some crap like that, right? And I think it's to do with taking stems or cells from one part of your body and putting it into your joints. It can also re-stimulate hair growth, right? I think it's too late for me with that though. There's no follicles left. But yeah, for you, Gray, maybe that might work, mate. Get just a little bit of filling in on there. Just inject that. But it's a really. I love how he's checking it now.
Look at that, look, yeah.
But no, it's a fairly new treatment, and it seems like a lot of our players are getting it done, and I think Bowen might have not Bowen, sorry, Dawson might have had it last season. Was having injections. I don't know too much about it. It makes me feel a bit funny. I'm putting my trust in the club. Obviously, they know what they're doing, but it's sort of like giving these players these injections so they can come back earlier from injury, and maybe. That's why we're starting. So Cornet could be back earlier with these miracle injections.
To be fair, we can get him back. It'd be like a new signing, wouldn't it? Yeah, we haven't seen him. I know it's going to take him a little while to get back up to speed, but just having someone who's with his pace and his directness, it would be like having a new signing in the club.
Yeah, 100%. And Scamacca, if he can come back early, obviously did tweet out soon, So yeah, look. If we can get the Derby game out of the way, which look out for the preview. Me and Scott have done our starting lineups, what we think. I'm very excited to see what Scott's is going to be because mine's quite interesting as well, so look out for that. But yeah, so after the Derby game, there's time there. If we at least get one of them back for Newcastle, and then hopefully have, by the time we play Spurs, near enough a full fit squad, that would be it. That would be amazing.
It would.
So...
Certainly would.
Yeah, this is an interesting actually one. Lastly, question. Let's end on a good question. Steve, you're right. If Moyes won us the Europa Conference and the FA Cup, but finished bottom of the league, would you sack or keep him? No, I'd keep him. If he I'd keep him. I'd build a statue with the bloody keys. Honestly, if he won 2 trophies in one, if he not just the Conference League, but the FA Cup, and then we got relegated. Yeah, I'm keeping him. I'm his biggest fan.
The thing is, though...
But if he just wins... Quick question, Gray, because I want you to answer on this one. Twist it. Take the FA Cup out of it. If he wins the Conference Cup and we get relegated. I'm a little bit...
Be in the Europa League the following season, so...
In the Championship.
Yeah, but I reckon he could get us out of it. The
It,
thing is, everyone says about like when Wigan won the FA Cup, it still went down. Do you think if you ask those Wigan fans, they go, "Oh, I'd rather not won the FA Cup. They'd rather not have those memories of beating Man City at Wembley, winning the FA Cup for the first time in their history." Do you think they'd rather have that taken away from them, but still be in the Premier League? Of course they wouldn't.
Exactly,
I
and you know what it is? It's the stadium. It's the stadium. You know, because of that size of that stadium and all what's gone on with our football club over the past 6, 7 years, whatever it's been. For us to be in the Championship, we'll be a laughing stock.
I would absolutely, and I really enjoyed our seasons in the Championship. Some of the most enjoyable times I've had going football.
Yeah.
But this ground in the Championship, I'd hate it.
No, exactly,
I
and that's the thing, mate. Look, I've always said, you know, like Graham said, them Wigan fans have had that cup win. They've got that memories of being at Wembley. Portsmouth got that cup win, got that you know, they're not in a great place now. Would they trade places with any Premier League side? Of course they would. But at the end of the day, they've got a trophy. So, you know, what you win, you play football and you go to watch football to see your club win trophies. We ain't won any trophies, so I want to see it. I want to see us win a trophy.
That comment, baby. Moyes can't win a one-ticket raffle at the moment. Oh, jeez. This is interesting, actually. Listen, I can't speak for Wigan fans because I don't know any, but El Chico says, of course, those Wigan fans would rather be in the PL. What Ronson have been rotting away ever since. Survival is way more important. Yeah, I mean, the thing is...
And football exists outside of the Premier League. The Premier League is not the be-all and end-all of football. There's 92 clubs in the league. I'm sure every single one of those clubs would take an FA Cup win.
Tell that to some of the clubs, though, that have folded. You know, tell that to some of the clubs
that's
that
not
are no
because they're
longer
not in the Premier League. That's down to mismanagement.
Yeah, but a lot of that has been club. You don't see clubs that happens to clubs in the Premier League. Clubs in the Premier League don't just go into administration because of mismanagement. It happens down in them lower leagues, and once you're in them lower leagues, and income is a lot less as well. That can happen.
Football
a lot
existed
easier.
before the Premier League, and everyone got along just fine.
Dan, as well, but not only that, it is mismanagement. You look at Portsmouth. You know, they were in the Premier League and they won that cup, but
The trouble is, Dan, is everyone pumping money to try and compete to get into the Premier League. That's where the mismanagement comes in. They're spending money. They're spending way. Sorry to interrupt you, Scott. They're spending way over their means to try to have a shot at getting in the Premier League. You can only have 20 teams in the Premier League.
Lucky we haven't had any mismanagement. Exactly. What have you been?
Dan, you can only have one. You can only have one league winner. You can only have one FA Cup winner. There's 92 teams. Not everyone can be in the Premier League. People just got to accept that.
It's right.
Football exists outside of the Premier League.
Yeah, but
the Premier League is not the be all and end all.
Yeah, but you're saying it's down to mismanagement. Do you know who our owners are? Have you been paying attention for the last 12 years?
I'm talking about clubs in like League One, League Two.
Yes.
Spending millions and millions of pounds that they haven't got.
Yeah,
to try and push up. Let's get into.
But do you not think that will happen to West Ham? Can you not see that happening to West Ham? Do you think we're immune to that?
If we was in League One and League Two spending, yeah, but at the moment we've got the cushion of the TV deals and all that.
Look at Derby.
We do have money coming in.
Look at Derby County. It was in the Championship. Got points docked, just about kept their club alive. Almost went into administration. Almost went down in the Championship, not League One, not League Two, the Championship. We go down into the Championship. You don't know what's going to happen. You can't say, "Oh, it's them. They've got mismanagement." Blah blah blah.
You can never. Look, the Championship's a hard league.
So you're saying like Championship, League One, League Two should just go our bollocks. We'll pack up and go home.
No one's saying that. Mate. What Dan's saying is that if we got relegated with the mismanagement that we've had at our football club, you could see us going bust like these clubs have. That's what I think Dan's alluding to.
Yeah, and so we can't sit there and say, "Oh, it's them. It's mismanagement. We don't have to worry about that." That we're in massive danger of that. So, it is important. And look, I would take But this is the thing, you can't guarantee it. But I would take an FA Cup and the season in the Championship and come back up. But I mean, El Chico, I think it's a good point. Some of us believe the club is dead already. If we go down in this stadium after spending 180 million, we'd be finished. Bolton, Blackburn, Wigan, Blackpool, Birmingham, never been back. We won't return. I mean, yeah, we have spent a massive amount of money. And yeah, a lot of fans have left, have cancelled their season ticket just off the stadium alone.
Yeah.
I don't think when we was in the Championship, we was getting packed out Upton Park.
Yep.
That's not going to happen. We probably won't.
It just annoys me when everyone thinks that the Premier League is the be all and end all, and nothing exists outside of that.
The thing is, Gray, football. I think football's changed a lot, and I think back in the day, pre-Premier League, and this is Sky's fault. It wasn't the be all and end. It weren't a death sentence. Like it weren't. If you got relegated, you know, a lot of teams. That's why managers didn't get sacked over relegations as much as they do now. It was very rare. That's why a manager could. You know, you had managers for 15 years. We had him, like John Lyle, relegations, back up, down. You know, you could have that. You don't have that now because football is different. It's business. It's money, and you got to be, if you want to progress as a club, and that's sad. I agree. I don't agree with it the way football's become, Graham. But it's a reality.
Well,
you know?
I just think it belittles the fans that turn up, you know, and go and watch teams in League One, League Two, you know, in their thousands every week. So we're saying that they shouldn't bother. Is basically what we're saying because they're not in the Premier League.
No, but they have the hopes of coming up, don't they? They have the hopes of they're what keeps them going is the hope that they'll get promoted from League Two to League One, and
like what you saw with Bournemouth when Bournemouth, you know, they almost went out of business, come up, and it's also look at Fulham. You know, remember with Fulham, they were all the way down in League Two and climbed all the way to the Premier League. You know, it's what everyone wants, but what Graham is saying, and you know, it's not the be all and end all. Look, we don't want to be in a 66,000 seater stadium in the Championship, but also I don't want to be a football club that is just happy finishing in the top six. Well, in 6th, 7th, 8th season after season without winning a trophy. Look, I'd take finishing 6th in the league, 5 seasons on the spin, all day long. So long as I've got to lift the trophy, whether it be Europa League, whether it be the Europa Conference League, I'm happy with 15th and winning the Conference League or the FA Cup because I'm seeing us win a trophy.
But here's the thing, right? And this is that's what I sort of say on it, right? Because we can all talk hypotheticals and say, I would take relegation if we won this. I would take relegation if we... It's all hypothetical. We have no control over it. The people that do have some control over it, the football managers. And we've seen it with David Moyes before, in his last time around. We was in a Carabao Cup semi-final, away at Arsenal, right? We spoke about this, Scott. And because we were there. We were all there. I think it was you there. You was there, Graham, weren't you?
Yeah, I went there.
The quarter final, wasn't it? When we lost 1-0.
Graham, right? So we saw that the team Arsenal had put out a weakened side. They didn't want to be in it. We put out a weakened side. Moyes put out a weakened side, did that game. And when we had an opportunity to win it, and we ended up losing 1-0 because he saw staying up as the priority because that's what his job. That's what he's paid for, and that is it. And that is it. If you ask Moyes what he'd rather win an FA Cup than stay up. But what would he do? He would sacrifice that FA Cup. He would sacrifice that that Conference League to keep us in this Premier League in a heartbeat. And that's the reality because his job is reliant. If he don't win a trophy this season, he's safe, right? If he gets us relegated, he's likely sacked, and that's football.
Yeah,
so that's it.
That is football, and a lot of that is the modern day game.
Yeah,
because of the Premier League, like we said, you go back before the existence of the Premier League. It didn't always necessarily mean you were going to get sacked, but now, as we see, you lose 6 games on the spin, you can lose your job.
Yeah,
yeah. You know, am I happy Moyes does that? No. Do I see why he does it? Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's the sad reality of football. Football has changed, but let's hope that he doesn't have to make that decision and we finally win a trophy. So let's wrap it up on a high note, right? Because look, we're still in the Premier League, we're still in the FA Cup, which we're playing on Monday. We're still in the Conference League. We can win 2 trophies and stay up. let's see. You never know what's going to
What
happen.
a feat that would be.
Yeah, honestly, look, I don't fancy us at all for the FA Cup. Don't give us a snowball's chance in hell.
Yeah.
But the Conference League, we have a real chance of winning that. So let's see. Let's get some bloody players in. Go and watch the Man City game. They're winning 1-0, beating Arsenal. Let everyone get off to that. Me and Scott are going to go and do a preview for the Derby game. So look out for that when it's up. And yeah, if you want to find out a little bit more about the Antonio situation, you can check out my video if you haven't already. Thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, we'll see you